Christmas is often wrapped in lights and music and gatherings, and yet many of us step into this season with hearts that feel heavy and homes that feel different. That's certainly the case for me and my family this year as we grieve the passing of my dad earlier in this year of 2025. And tonight, surrounded by moments of meaningful music, we'll listen as our friends share how they are walking through the holidays while carrying their own deep sorrow. In some parts of this evening, they may stir up some tender or painful emotions, but you're invited to stay with us from the beginning to the end as we gently make space for both grief and hope. And after a final song, I'll be back to connect with you once more before we close. Welcome to Restoring Christmas.
I remember that first Christmas after losing my dad. It wasn't like our lives stopped. It just felt like everything was in slow motion. But the rest of the world was still moving on. I remember wishing people knew everything was not fine. Don't they know that I'm grieving? It's not okay. I'm not okay.
To be honest, there's not a lot I remember about that first Christmas after my brother August died. I felt like I was walking around in a fog. He passed away in the summer, and even though it was still months away, I remember dreading how hard Christmas was going to be without him.
We kind of blew up all of our traditions that first Christmas after my husband Matt died. Our boys were teenagers, so we could have a conversation about it. We agreed we just didn't want to do all the things we normally did and try to pretend like everything was okay when it really wasn't.
That first Christmas, we gave ourselves permission to change up the way we normally did things. Usually we'd travel to visit my wife's family, but we really wanted to be present with my mom. We probably went a little overboard with gifts for her that year, but we wanted to try to fill in the gap a little for what my dad would have done for her. You know, I think we anticipated that Christmas would be really hard, and it was. But sometimes a random Tuesday can be really hard too.
I knew there was no way we could do stockings that first Christmas without Matt. And decorating the tree just seemed so overwhelming. So I got little bags, numbered 1 through 24. I put an ornament in each bag, and we hung those on the mantle. We opened one each day leading up to Christmas, gradually decorating the tree.
I remember one particular day that first holiday season, there was just so much tension in the air and so much frustration and conflict. And at the end of the night, it's like we finally realized what was happening. Our family wasn't falling apart, it was just grief. We were all hurting and broken because we had loved and missed August so much.
Oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth. Long lay the world in sin and never pining, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth. A thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. Fall on your knees, oh, hear the angel voices, oh, night divine, oh, Truly, he taught us to love one another. His law is love, and his gospel is peace. Chains shall he break, for the slave is our brother, and in his name all oppression shall cease. Sweet hymns of joy in grateful chorus raise we, let all within us praise his holy name. Christ is the Lord. Oh, praise his name forever. His power and glory evermore proclaim. His power and glory evermore proclaim. Fall on your knees. Oh, hear the angel voices. Oh, night divine. Oh, night when Christ was born. Oh, night divine. Oh, night. Oh, night divine.
As I listen to that beautiful song and hear that line, a thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices, I can't help but think about how often Christmas finds us weary. Grief has a way of making us feel heavy. That first holiday season after losing my dad a few years ago, I remember Christmas feeling strange. I definitely felt the weariness, and I didn't feel much like rejoicing. When you're missing someone you love, Christmas can feel empty. It can feel like something is missing because someone is missing. And it's hard to imagine feeling hope, much less rejoicing. If that's how you're feeling this Christmas season, let me say first, you are not alone, and you've come to the right place. We're here to remind our hearts, our minds, and each other of the very first Christmas when God sent his very own Son into a weary and broken world. Jesus came quietly, right into the middle of humanity's grief and need. He came to be Emmanuel, God with us, so that even in our pain, even in our longing, we would know we are never alone. Welcome to Restoring Christmas. This is a space for those of us who are navigating the holidays after losing someone we love. A place where we can be honest about the hard parts and also be reminded that God sees us, he loves us, and is here with us every step of the way.
I wonder if your experience in hearing those stories is at all like mine. I feel gratitude for their willingness to share. I feel some hope for the healing and comfort they've experienced. And then there are the, moments. I know that. I've been there. Our grief stories are deeply personal. Some of us lost someone recently, others years ago. Some losses were sudden, others expected. Each of our stories is unique, and whatever your story is, I'm so glad that you're here today. My hope is to be able to offer some comfort and hope to you as we head into this Christmas season. My name's Brian. I'm a pastor here at our church. My wife, Catherine, and I have been married for 25 years, and we have 5 kids, 2 boys in college, 2 girls at home, and 1 son already in heaven. I recently started leading a small group of high school boys. Weeks into it, I realized that when I was with them, I hadn't worked to remember what it felt like to be their age. As soon as I did, as soon as I thought about that 14, 15-year-old Brian, I was jarred. I don't know why it hadn't even occurred to me, but my mom had just died 2 weeks before I turned 15, 3 weeks before I started high school. And as you can imagine, this wasn't exactly a light or even emotionally neutral memory to come back to. All of a sudden, I was back in high school, walking the halls, seeing all these people I didn't know, and not just wondering what they thought of me, as most adolescents are consumed with, but wondering if they knew. I mean, some of them knew my mom was sick, but did they know she died over the summer? And if they knew, would they say something? And if they didn't know, how would they find out? And if they did find out, how awkward would it be? I kind of wished I could read people's thoughts and get these answers before going into an interaction. It was a lonely and isolating place for me. I've walked the lonely road of grief several times, losing my mom in high school, grandparents in that same season, my dad in college, and later our infant son, Samuel. I know what it feels like for grief to take center stage in my life, for it to sit like a heavy fog in our home and to overshadow a season like Christmas. Grief is one of the most universal experiences. It's the natural emotional response we all feel to the loss and even change in our lives. And when we walk through it with others, being present, listening, learning, grieving together, we find that we don't have to carry it alone. The Apostle Paul offered a set of instructions to Jesus' followers in Rome, instructions that pointed them toward love in action. Tucked in among this amazing list are these 2 opposite but complementary lines. He says, "Rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn." Easy to overlook, but they're so important. They're so simple in concept, but so hard to carry out. In short, they point us away from feeling and being alone in our grief. Paul's words actually are a caution against allowing our grief to isolate us. While our stories are unique, we are not alone in grief. So for those of us who are heading to the holidays while also grieving the loss of someone we love, here's the question I want to put before us today. What do we do with this grief? 16 years ago, my wife and I lost our young son, Samuel. About 6 months after his death, I was in a bad place. We went to grief counseling together, and though it was very hard, I'm so glad we did. One of the things that our counselor surfaced for us was what we'll call the 3 responses to grief. The first response, she said, is to fill the void. This might look like self-medicating with a substance, a habit, or even an unhelpful thought pattern, agreeing with something that's not good or right or true over and over again in our minds and hearts. It's the thing we do to try to treat our own pain in our own way in the moment. The second response is to get over it. This is about ignoring or minimizing our grief to try and just move on. This was how I had been coping, and it definitely wasn't working. The third response our grief counselor offered was to keep the connection. This one is about acknowledging our grief. It's a commitment to keep what you've lost in front of you as part of your life. It's about remembering and honoring who or what you no longer have. I immediately knew that was the best option, keep the connection, but I also knew that it sounded hard. I wanted to remember Samuel, but when I did, it would hurt so much. And so I'd move on, busying myself with life and carrying on with my responsibilities. And the hurt would lighten with the distraction, with my mind off the loss, but then I'd think about Samuel, my son, and how I wanted to remember him. And it would hurt so much. Again, maybe you can relate. Our grief counselor also gave me this line. She said, "Grief is not something you heal from, it's something you heal in." And in some way, that line is a beautiful rephrasing of Jesus' words from the Sermon on the Mount. He said, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted." The path to comfort is mourning. It's keeping the connection, not filling the void or getting over it. These thoughts from my grief counselor, these words from Jesus helped me to see that though I couldn't perceive it in any given moment, I was going somewhere. This was going somewhere. I wasn't stuck in the painful emotional loop with no exit that I thought I was in. God was up to something. Healing was happening. Comfort was coming. Everything in me wanted to hit the eject button on my mourning, to ignore it, to get over it. I wanted healing from my grief, but Jesus' invitation to us is to face it. Jesus' promise is to meet us and to comfort us in our grief. It's on the path of mourning that we are healed. It's in keeping the connection with our loss that we're comforted. This can look so many different ways. For our family, we've kept the connection with Samuel by keeping a stocking for him on our mantle. We've also chosen to reserve gift money for him in our budget, and we choose each Christmas as a family to give it away to a person, a family, a nonprofit, a cause in his honor. My wife's family honors her grandparents on their birthdays each year by a string of texts on a family thread, what they remembered, what they loved, what made them laugh. And over time, I've come to appreciate that keeping the connection actually gives us the chance to be creative and the opportunity to build new traditions over time. So what do we do with this grief? We face it. We keep the connection. We give ourselves permission to be sad and to mourn, because in doing so, we find comfort and healing. For me, putting this into practice, facing my grief, keeping the connection, choosing to mourn, has felt like an act of courage and faith. And if you feel that too, I'd simply say this: have courage. It is hard. You're not imagining it. Trust Jesus. Embrace his invitation to stay on the path of mourning. And ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Invite others to help you face your grief and keep the connection. It might be helpful to remember that God's not in a hurry. Sometimes we may wish he was, but it will take time. Healing does not come in an instant. Comfort doesn't arrive all at once. That's certainly been my experience. In so many ways over my life and through my losses, God has comforted me. It didn't happen quickly at all, but it happened, and it still happens. Jesus comforts me in my grief, slowly but surely, day after day, over months, over years, and even over decades. I was recently asked by a friend to officiate the memorial service of a beloved family member who was killed in a tragic and unexpected way. I met with the family to talk about their lost loved one. We've been talking, my friend said, about just how important it is to be present with one another, to show up for each other, and to let people know. And she left it right there for a moment. In the minutes that followed, they came back to these thoughts and observations multiple times, even specifically revisiting that line, let people know. Let people know that you care about them, that you appreciate them, they've made a difference in your life, that you love them. And as I reflected on my time with this family, my mind went to a verse in the Old Testament book of Ecclesiastes. It's better to go to a house of mourning than to a house of feasting. For death is the destiny of everyone. The living should take this to heart. The heart of the wise is in the house of the mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of pleasure. In some way, these verses are hard to hear. They're hard to receive, maybe particularly when our loss is fresh, when grief still rests on the surface. Hearing that mourning is better than anything at all. It can be troubling, even offensive. But in their grief over the death of their wife, their mother, their grandmother, their mother-in-law, this family was acutely aware of the preciousness of life, the brevity of life, the fragility of life, the value and beauty in life and love and relationships and friendships and family and memories. To borrow words from Ecclesiastes, they were a house of mourning. And while there was so much pain and shock, there was also so much wisdom, and they were taking it to heart. So in our grief, what do we do with this wisdom? In the same way that there are three responses for our grief, I see three responses to this wisdom. The first is to replace it, to replace these admittedly heavy thoughts with something more comforting or pleasant. This response is a deliberate choice to move away from these thoughts, to something frankly easier. The second approach to this wisdom is to ignore it. This may look simply and often quickly like going back to life as usual, stepping right back into our normal routine. But if we're honest, it's all as a way of avoiding the heaviness of these thoughts. In this response, we just look away from the wisdom that grief has presented to us. The third approach to this wisdom is to embrace it, to look at it, to move toward it. It's choosing to sit with it, to contemplate it, and to let it change us, to change me, to change you. While this approach is obviously the healthiest, it's definitely not the easiest. In the moment, it's easier to move away or to look away. This, embracing it, looking at, moving toward the wisdom, was the approach chosen by my friend and her family. In the midst of their shock and grief, they courageously chose to stare their tragedy in the face, to embrace the weighty wisdom that it surfaced, and to let that wisdom tip their hearts, their minds, their lives. Again, my friend's words, we've been talking about just how important it is to be present with one another, to show up for each other, and to let people know. Because here's the reality. This Christmas is going to look different after experiencing the loss of someone you love. And you're probably already noticing that everyone grieves differently. Some tend to try to replace their grief, while others try to ignore it. But the very best thing we can do is to embrace our grief and allow God to meet us there. 1 Corinthians 13 is one of the more famous chapters in all of the Bible. The last verse of the chapter says, "And now these three remain, faith, hope, and love." Faith, hope, and love. These three remain. We grieve because we've lost someone. At the same time, much remains. Among other things, faith, hope, and love remain. Each day, even in our grief, we have the opportunity to strengthen what remains, to strengthen faith and hope and love within ourselves and also for others. The kind of faith that the Apostle Paul is talking about here is not a faith that's toppled by hard circumstances. It's not dependent on things going our way. Instead, it's a faith that's grounded in who God is, in what he's promised, and particularly in what he has already done for us through Jesus. John records these words of Jesus. "I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world, you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world." Those last words of Jesus give us reason to hope because he's overcome the world. He's overcome this world of trouble, of sickness, of pain, fear, loss, uncertainty, tragedy, death. And it will not always be this way. It's through faith in him that we find this reason to hope. Faith, hope, and love. In the previous chapter, John records these words of Jesus: "Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends." And this is exactly what Jesus did for us, for all of us. And that act of giving his life for us, of dying and being raised from the dead, it's the object of our faith. It's the reason for our hope, and it's the example for our love. I started by reading 1 Corinthians 13:13. Let me go back and read the rest of the verse. "And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love." Our faith looks to the past, to what God has done for us, and the reach, the effect of Jesus' death and resurrection is more than we can possibly comprehend. Our hope looks to the future, to the promise of what's ahead, and it's all that we long for and more. But love, the greatest of these, can only ever be expressed or experienced in the present moment. Strengthening what remains can look like anchoring our faith to what God has done for us through Jesus. Strengthening what remains can look like resting in hope and taking comfort in hope. Hope that because Jesus rose from the dead, there is victory over death. And strengthening what remains can look like a commitment to love and love well. Following the example of Jesus, we can strengthen our commitment to love richly and deeply and selflessly. Once again, this was the path chosen by my friend and her family. In keeping the connection with their loss and embracing the wisdom that they encountered in their grief, they chose to let it inspire them to love, to strengthen what remains by choosing to be more present with one another, to show up for each other, and to intentionally let people know. Our losses confront us with a series of decisions. They're choices we wish we didn't have to make in situations we wish we weren't in. They're decisions about what to do with the grief we experience and what to do with the wisdom we encounter. So what could it look like this Christmas to keep the connection in your grief and to courageously embrace the wisdom that your loss brings? When we do this, when we're willing to look at it and move toward it, we've chosen the path of comfort, the path of purpose, the path of healing. Keeping the connection with who we've lost and embracing the wisdom that loss brings helps us to heal in our grief. The first helps us remember and honor who we lost. The second leads us to strengthen what remains. When we keep the connection and remember those who have shaped our lives, it grounds us in our story. When we embrace wisdom and strengthen faith, hope, and love, we're choosing to find purpose in and give purpose to our grief as we move forward. What do we do with this grief? We can keep the connection. What do we do with this wisdom that we encounter in our grief? We embrace it. And my prayer for you this Christmas is that you'll choose, that we'll all choose the path of comfort, of purpose and healing, and that we'll help one another on this path. My prayer is that you'll find even one meaningful way to honor and stay connected to the one you've lost, that you'll receive the wisdom that comes through grief and gently but purposefully strengthen what remains. And above all, that you'll have the courage to walk through your grief with open hands, trusting our good God to comfort, to heal, to do what he wants to do what only he can truly do. Let me pray. Heavenly Father, you are good. You are good even when circumstances are not, and you are good even when we don't feel it. Thank you for this Christmas season. It is evidence that you are good. It is evidence that you care. It is evidence that you love us. It is evidence that you are with us. And for all of us here listening to these words, we bring our hurt before you. We bring our grief before you. Please help us. We desire your comfort. We desire your healing. We desire your purposes to be accomplished. But we need you. We need you for that, and we need each other for that. So please help us. Thank you for your Son, Jesus, and our King. We pray in his name. Amen.
I try to pray, but the words aren't coming out the way they used to. Did I lose my faith? God, do I still trust you? I try to worship, but when I lift my hands, it all just feels so empty. Is it the heavy of the world, or is it just me? Though I've sung 1,000 times, you're perfect and you'll never leave my side. Can I be honest? I just wanna know that you still got this. When all I'm holding on to is a promise, and God, you promise that you'll never leave me. When I'm scared of the dark, you're right there with me. Your kindness never fails, it's always reaching after me. But right now, God, all I need is to be honest. Oh, I've heard stories of you showing up when it was least expected. Every time you prove your timing's always perfect, and the wait was worth it. Oh, and again and again and again, I see your power coming through. You bring life to what is dead. No, there's nothing you can't do. I believe you did it then, so won't you do it now? Can I be honest? I just wanna know that you still got this. And all I'm holding on to is a promise. And God, you promise that you'll never leave me. When I'm scared of the dark, you're right there with me. Your kindness never fails, it's always reaching after me. But right now, God, all I need is your breath when I can't breathe, your eyes when I can't see, an anchor as the waves crash all around. And be my heart when I can't feel, and show me something real. Just one taste of heaven here and now. Can I be honest? Oh, can I be honest? I just wanna know that you still got this. When all I'm holding on to is a promise, and God, you promise that you'll never leave me. When I'm scared of the dark, you're right there with me. Your kindness never fails, it's always reaching after me. But right now, God, all I need, yeah, right now, God, all I need is to be honest.
Honestly, there's no playbook. I wish there had been. But you just keep going. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other. I wanted a shortcut, but I would have lost the chance to grow if I'd taken a shortcut. Looking back, I can see that God is way bigger than we think He is. His story, His purpose, it's bigger than mine.
If I'm honest, I can remember when I couldn't imagine ever experiencing joy again or even wanting to, because I didn't want to feel like I was moving on. But I've learned we can hold both joy and grief. You can cry and laugh at the same time. We want grief to be linear, but it isn't. There will be good things and there will be hard things.
Planning my dad's memorial made me face the honesty of my grief head on, and that was actually healing. It reminded me that while earthly dads aren't perfect, God is the perfect father. And knowing that He is completely for me has given me strength.
The thing I found most comforting was honestly the hope we have in Jesus. It's the only thing that was truly comforting, the reminder that death has been defeated and we will see August again.
Through Matt's journey and death, I gained a new understanding of God's love for us. In the hardest and darkest moments of my life, God's love was steady and constant and always there. His love doesn't change. His presence with us doesn't change.
Grief doesn't really ever get easier, but we can get stronger. We can learn to carry it and still love the person that we lost.
Tonight, we've shared stories of grief, of longing, and of finding glimmers of hope again. When I think back to the line we heard earlier, a thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices, I'm reminded that hope doesn't always come in fireworks. Sometimes it comes quietly, like a flicker in the dark, reminding us that God has not forgotten us. Reminding us that Emmanuel, God with us, is still here. And that makes all the difference. Thank you for spending this time with us. If there's anything we can do to help, please reach out. My prayer for you is that even in your grief, you would experience God's presence with you this Christmas.
Thank you for being a part of Restoring Christmas tonight. As your church family, I want you to know that you are seen, you are loved, and you do not have to walk this road by yourself. And even more, your Heavenly Father sees every tear, loves you deeply, and holds your life securely in His hands. His heart is to restore and sustain you, even in this, reminding you that you are never alone. Merry Christmas.